Cheops Pyramid, the only one of the 7 wonders of the world to have survived to this day. 5.5 million tons of stone raised 146 meters in just 20 years. These are the almost inconceivable facts that we're given today about its construction. Admirably proportioned, the building keeps locked away in the silence of its stones the enigma of its design. And it has done so for the last 46 centuries. An impenetrable mystery? Nothing today can be less certain. How would you raise millions of stone blocks to more than 140 meters in height? The most obvious answer, at least in part, is by using the external ramp. This ramp, a crucial feature of the construction, enables the bulk of the materials to be transported. Its progressive construction, timed to coincide with the stages of the pyramid's elevation, proves to be a simple and logical way of supplying the site continuously without stopping or even slowing down activity. The pyramid reaches 43 meters in height, that is 65% of its finished bulk, with the help of this external ramp. But beyond that, its effectiveness becomes doubtful. Indeed, let us remind ourselves that if we were to reach the top of the pyramid, such a ramp would be twice the volume of the pyramid itself, and would have a gradient that's far too steep. It then becomes difficult to imagine how the highest blocks would be transported, and how the ramp would finally be dismantled. The 3D simulation of the sequence of phases in the construction of the pyramid, the external ramp, the internal ramp, the corridors, and the chamber superstructures, allows us to recreate the incredible level of geometric and spatial harmony that the designers reached for all these elements. It allows us in real time to validate the hypotheses, apply the parameter changes, and see them in an instant take effect on the whole structure. To understand the construction mechanism of the pyramid, it's important to bear in mind the coexistence of 2 architectural projects that are quite distinct, that of the pyramid itself and that of the King's Chamber. This latter, in effect, determines the interior layout of the monument, and because of its exceptional nature, involves completely innovative working methods. Situated over more than 43 meters above ground at the center of the pyramid, the King's Chamber is impressive because of its flat ceiling, topped by tens of beams, some of which weigh over 60 tons. How these blocks came to be installed seems simply unimaginable, but there they are. Let's turn for a moment to this perfectly built gigantic corridor called the Grand Gallery, which leads to the funeral chamber. A vast, sloping space, devoid of liturgical ornaments, the gallery naturally shows itself to be one of the principal instruments of construction of the chamber, a formidable means of traction based on a counterweight system enabling the enormous blocks to be raised. This system, a staggering piece of technology, makes sense of the internal spaces of the pyramid which until now have remained a mystery. The dynamic 3D simulation of the counterweight trolley running on the roller track along the side benches of the Grand Gallery shows a very high level of expertise using simple materials like stone, wood and rope. In this scientific procedure, by undertaking many tests on various loads, materials and friction levels, we gradually managed to optimize the operation of the internal traction system until we arrived at the most efficient digital dynamic simulation. Alarms are on high alert. The granite beams of the first ceiling of the King's Chamber have just cracked. Thanks to the simulation and to the computer calculations with software used chiefly to carry out virtual car crash tests, it's been possible to retrace the history of the successive cracks in the beams of the first 3 ceilings. As we've seen, the pyramid is built to 2/3 of its final size using the external ramp. How was the site supplied right up to its completion? The answer: the missing link, a second ramp, this time located inside the building. Built from the outset and growing with the site, this long spiral of more than 1,600 meters, segmented into 21 rectilinear flights, comes into use only when the King's Chamber and the second stage of the pyramid have been completed. It is, in effect, via the internal ramp that the blocks are transported from this point onwards, including those that come from the demolition of the external ramp, which takes place in parallel. For the higher levels, the blocks were smaller, and hauling them required teams of only around 10 men working in relay from one flight to another. After each haul, the ascending teams return to their platforms without disrupting the rhythm of the site, using an exterior gangway which is parallel with the flight being used. Here, the purpose of recreating the process in 3D is to quantify the action in real time. Using this procedure, we see that turning a sledge and changing a team on one notched platform takes no time at all, less than a minute, an action that fits perfectly in a relatively tight schedule. The software used to recreate the process serves today to organize the operational processes of a factory by optimizing flow, workstations, their ergonomics, connections between production sites, and resource utilization. We thereby see a factory as it functions in real time, and we're in a good position to be able to anticipate any event. By considering the pyramid site as an organized and planned site, which indeed it certainly was, these 3D simulations have allowed us to test different organizational configurations. What we call the pyramidion is the stone which crowns the pyramid. Regardless of how small it was, this mini-pyramid had to be laid very carefully to compensate its weight of around 15 tons. During the site work, the pyramidion was first hauled to the level of the King's Chamber at 43 meters from the base via the external ramp. Then, and until it reaches its final position, it was raised by rotation using ropes that are tied to a wooden hoisting device. Each time it's raised, its steady, slow release from the ground is assured by the torsion of each of these ropes, with its underside in a diamond shape to facilitate its release. The virtual 3D simulation of the way the pyramidion is lifted enables us to visualize a very simple concept, which has the great advantage of requiring only little space, something which is of paramount importance at the top of the pyramid.